Hey guys, welcome back to Algebra 1 Summer Prep. We're going to pick it back up today with lesson 4 over slope and writing linear equations. So let's zoom this in here. Our last lesson was a little bit tricky. I think this one is going to be a little bit simpler to follow, and you probably have learned a little bit about this already. So let's fill in some stuff right here about slope, do a bit of a review. So it says slope is written as let's fill in these blanks here. This is going to be a ratio of the vertical change, which we also call the rise, the vertical change to the horizontal change, which is also known as the run, between any 2 points on a line. Okay, so you guys have probably talked about slope already. So basically a slope is, if you just think about it, it's really just like the steepness of a line, okay? It's really that simple. You'll hear about this rise over run stuff, right? It's basically like the vertical change to the horizontal change. That's how we measure how steep a line is, aka that's how we find the slope. So we say this slope, this remains constant for any 2 points on the same line. So you're always going to go like up and over the same amount over and over again, right? You'll go like up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, and it's always going to remain constant across the line. So it says slope is written as we're going to say it's written typically as a fraction in simplest form. So basically we write it typically as a reduced fraction. And sometimes the fraction just reduces to a whole number, and that's okay. And we also have a variable that we use for slope, which it doesn't make a lot of sense because it's not like S for slope, but our variable for slope is typically m. So anytime you see m, we're talking about the slope of the line. Okay, and we also have different types of slope. 4 different types of slope. So the first one we say is positive slope. Let's write the first two. Positive slope, and then you also have negative slope. Now, as you can imagine, positive is going up, negative is going down. So anytime you have a line that's going up, looking at it like from left to right on your paper, let me draw this here, like so. We say that has a positive slope, okay? Anytime we have a line going down when looking at it from left to right, we say the slope is negative. So let's draw out kind of an increasing line and then a decreasing line. Okay, so we can have a positive slope, we can have a negative slope. If you think about like what's in between positive and negative, will be like kind of neutral, right? So you can have a horizontal line like so. And if it's not positive or negative, I kind of think of like a number line. What's between your positive and your negative numbers? It's the number 0, and that's exactly what we would say our slope is of any horizontal line. A slope of 0. And then, of course, we have a 4th scenario here, and this is kind of the weird one, but this is if you have a line straight up and down, a vertical line. Let's sketch that out. Okay. And this is a strange one that you're just going to have to memorize here. But if you have a vertical line, it's not a slope of 0 like our horizontal ones. We say it has a slope that's undefined. Undefined. And we're going to kind of look at why that is when we look at the graphs of some of these lines and looking at their slopes. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into that. And you may have even learned a little equation for slope last year. Some of you might have, some of you may not have. We're going to look at that in the next lesson. Today we're specifically going to look at slope based off of their graphs. All right, so off to the side here, it says finding slope on a graph, m equals, and let's say m equals our rise over our run. Okay. That's just kind of trying to remind you that you do the up and down first, the rise, before you do the run. And that's how you'll write your ratio, aka your fraction. So directions say, find the slope of each line, write your answer in simplest form. Now, there's a lot of ways that you could be taught this. I'm going to teach you my way, which I think is the easiest way. All right, so let's zoom into number 1 here. I recommend picking 2 points on the line and always starting from the point that's furthest to the left. Just like we read left to right, we do math left to right. So I highly recommend it. That doesn't seem like a really important thing, but it can be huge, and it can alleviate any confusion when dealing with like negatives and stuff when it comes to slopes. So I'm going to pick 2 points that are on this line. You just need 2 to calculate your slope. And you don't just want to pick like any 2 points. Obviously, on the ones I've given you here, it's pretty clear which ones you should pick because they give you these points. Like they highlight a point here and also here. They won't always do that though, okay? So it's important that you pick a point that clearly goes through a coordinate. So let me see if I can show you this. Like this one doesn't clearly go through a whole number coordinate right there, so I would never pick that as a point. So the ones that I have highlighted here and here, we're gonna use those two. And if you look at your paper, yes, you have one that's up here and one that's down here, but if you look left to right, there's clearly one that's further to the left of your page, and that's the one down here. So we're gonna always start and go left to right. So if I start with the one over here and we calculate our rise over our run, we're always gonna count, do we go up and over or do we go down and over? And in this case, we would go up and to the right. Okay, the way that I teach it, starting with the point furthest to the left, you will always either go up and to the right or down and to the right, but always to the right. Okay, not everyone teaches it that way, but I do think it's easiest to learn it that way. So let's go ahead and count. Starting from this point, we're going to count how many up until we're in line with the other one. So let's count. We would go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up 7. So I'm going to go ahead and write down 7 over. I always start it like that. Okay, so we went up 7, and then let's count how many it would be over. Over 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's when we would land on it. So up 7 over 4, that's my slope, 7 over 4. And we can't reduce that fraction any, so we would leave that as our final slope answer. And keep in mind, negatives will only come into play if you have to go down to get to your other point. We went up, so we're good. Up and to the right, we're good. And also, if I wasn't sure if I made it positive or negative, y'all just look at your line. If you look from left to right, this is a line that's going up, so I know I'm gonna have a positive slope in the end. All right, so you can always check yourself that way. Let's look at number 2. What do you notice about this line right away? Well, left to right, this is a line going down, so I know I should end up with a negative number in the end. Let's pick our 2 points, which obviously we can pick the 2 that they kind of have highlighted. They literally put a point here and a point here. It looks like we could have also picked this point. That looks like it's clearly going if you want to pick like 2 points that are closer together. But for now, let's go ahead and just stick with the ones that they highlighted for us. All right, now when I pick which one to start from, I'm gonna go with this one because it's furthest to the left of my screen or of my paper. All right, so we know we do our rise first, so that's either up or down. And we know on this one, we're gonna have to go down to get to our other point. So I'm gonna go down 1, 2, 3, and then I'm right in line with it. Now, because I'm going down 3, I'm gonna go ahead and write negative 3. Anytime you have to go down to get your other point, it's gonna be negative. Okay, so we went down 1, 2, 3, so negative 3, and then going over to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So negative 3 over 9. And because of the way I do it, going left to right, my bottom number will always be a positive number. So the only reason it would ever be negative is if I go down. That's it. As long as you start with the point furthest to the left. I can't emphasize that enough. Otherwise, you can do it the other way, but you have to know a lot more about up and left and right and negatives and stuff like that. Okay, simplifying this fraction, because this one can be simplified, negative 3 over 9 would reduce to negative, what would that be, 1/3? Yeah, because 3 goes into 3 one time, and 3 goes into 9 3 times. And that would be our fully simplified slope. And it's negative, line's going down, it all checks out. Okay, let's try number 3. Okay, this one's weird. this was like in our notes above, right? We already know that this is going to have a slope of 0 because it's a flat horizontal line. It's our neutral line. In between positive and negative is 0. So I know it's going to be 0. I kind of want to show you with the rise over run why it ends up being 0. So I can pick my 2 points. Can really go about it the same way we do the others. And I start with the one furthest to the left. Now when I calculate my rise, you notice you don't rise or fall any, right? You don't have to go up or down to get to this point. So I would say, okay, my rise is 0 over, and then how many do we go over? Well, we go over 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so if we're doing rise over run, we would say, well, that's 0 over 4. Okay, put that in your calculator. Literally, I challenge you, type it in the calculator. You know what, I can actually pull up my calculator here. So let's see, if I go 0 divided by 4, because that's what 0 over 4 means, and I press enter. Oh, look at that. You just get the number 0. Okay, so bringing it back here, that's why this equals 0 in the end. So you could always do rise over run and test it out in your calculator if you forget that a horizontal line has a slope of 0. All right, let's take a look at the vertical line at number 4 here. Well, we know from our notes that we took that this is going to have a slope that's undefined. So we could go ahead and write that, but I want to prove it to you. So let's highlight a couple points here. They give us these two. Now, there's not one that's furthest to the left, so you could really start anywhere. Let's just pick this one. Okay, if we do our rise, well, I would go up to get to that one, directly up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I would say, okay, up 5. And then I would go over none, because when I go up 5, I land on it. So I would go over 0, so 5 over 0. You might be thinking, well, how is that different than the one we did over here? But look at the placement of your 0. Over here, it was in the top of the fraction, the numerator. Over here, it's in the denominator. And that is a big, big difference. Type in 5 over 0 or 5 divided by 0 in your calculator. I'm going to do it, actually. Okay, 5 divided by 0. Ready? I'm going to press enter. Overflow error. Yours may or may not say that. Yours might just say error. But regardless, you cannot divide by 0. Okay, so if you end up with a 0 in the denominator, you're going to have all kinds of issues. You cannot do it mathematically. Okay, so this is why this one is undefined, because you end up with a 0 in the denominator. Now, once you've seen this a couple of times, you don't have to repeat this process every time. If you can just remember a vertical line's undefined, then you're good. All right, why don't you guys try these last two? Maybe pause this, see if you can do them on your own. Otherwise, I'm going to jump in and do them right now. Okay, pick my 2 points. I'm predicting a positive number in the end because it is a line going up from left to right. I'm going to start with the one down here because that's furthest to the left of my page. And then when I do my rise, I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know I'm going up 5. So that's going to be up positive 5. And then over 1, 2, 3. So up 5 over 3. So I literally write 5 over 3. And that won't simplify any. We just leave it as a nice little improper fraction, and we're good to go. Okay, let's try the last one on this page, number 6. Let's pick our 2 points. I am anticipating a negative number in the end because this line is going down from left to right. Okay, furthest one to the left is the one up here. Now to get to the other point, I do go down, so that's hence the negative. So down 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go ahead and write negative 3. So down 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to go over 1. So negative 3 over 1, which if I simplify that, you don't really need the over 1 part of it. So this just simplifies to the number negative 3. And you want to leave it like that as a whole number. Okay, that covers the slope portion. Let's see what else we have over here. Okay, so now we're going to start introing actually writing the full equation of the line, which does involve slope, okay? It involves 2 pieces, slope and then something called the Y-intercept. So let's zoom in here. Now, there's several different ways you can write the equation of a line. Today anyway, we're gonna look specifically at the most common one, which is called the slope-intercept form of an equation, okay? So it says linear equations are frequently written in slope-intercept form, and you may have seen this before, and it is y equals mx plus b. That is what your equation will always end up looking like in this slope-intercept form. But you'll have a number plugged in for the m and plugged in for the b, okay? So we know our m represents the slope. We just talked about that. And our b is the new thing, and that is our y-intercept. Y-intercept. And that just means where your line hits the y-axis whenever you graph it, okay? Which we'll look at down below here. So let's look at a pretty simple section right here just to make sure we have this down. It says, given the slope and the y-intercept of the line, write the equation in slope-intercept form. So this is super basic just to practice writing these equations. So number one, they tell you the slope equals 2 and your y-intercept equals -1. So you're going to write this equation plugging in these numbers into the correct spots. So we know our slope goes in for our m. We know our y-intercept goes in place of our b. So the way that would look when we write it is we'd say y equals, our m is 2, so I'm going to put 2x. You'll always have x written in your equation. And then we do plus our b. Now, don't write this down yet, but I could go like this. I could go plus my b, which is -1. But that's a little complicated looking, so if you have plus a negative, remember that that is actually the same as if you just make this a minus sign in between them. So I'm going to go ahead and erase the plus a minus and just put -1. So I can just put 2x and then just plug in -1 in that spot. And that would be your equation for that line. I made that kind of big. There we go. Okay, let's try the next one, or if you feel good to go, maybe pause this, try the rest of these three. Okay, a slope of -3/5 and a y-intercept of 4. Now it's a +4, so we'll just put a +4 on the end. Okay, so this is going to be y equals our slope of -3/5, and don't forget to put the x next to it always, and then +4, because in this one, our y-intercept is positive. Okay, number 3, this is going to be y equals, our slope is -3, so -3x, y-intercept is a +2, +2. And last one, y equals, I have a -1 slope. Now, you could go like this. You could say -1x, but remember how we fully simplify that? You just, if there's a 1, you don't need the 1 in front of the x. So I'm actually going to write this as just -x. Now don't forget the negative sign, that's very important. -x plus 7. You have a positive y-intercept. Okay, simple enough. I think you have that down. And we are ready for our last little section here. And then you guys can go try some of these on the practice sheet. Okay, directions. It says identify the slope and y-intercept of the line on the graph, and then write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form, okay? You'll notice on 5 and 6, they have separate lines where they want you to first write your m and your b, right? And then 7 and 8, they just want you to go straight to your answer right here. Okay, so 5 kind of gives you a little step-by-step process to help you out for the first couple of problems. So let's calculate our m. That's what we did on the other side. So we know we're going to pick 2 points. I'm going to start with the one down here because it's furthest to the left. And I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, and over 1. So just out to the side, I know 3/1 is my slope, but I can simplify that down to just 3. All right, now my b. Your b is going to be the easiest thing to find, y'all. That is just wherever your line intersects or intercepts the y-axis, right? Y-intercept. So that is this point right here. That is where it hits my y-axis. So what point is that? Well, if I start from the origin, I go down 1, 2, 3, 4. That is the point -4 on the y-axis. So my b equals -4. Okay, so you've got your m, you've got your b, you're ready to write your equation. So we would write y equals, we know it goes mx plus b. So I would say 3x plus my b. Now if your b is negative, instead of doing plus, just write minus. So we'll say minus 4. Okay, that's it. That'd be final equation. Let's try this one. All right, let's first find our slope. So I'm going to pick the points they have highlighted here. I'm going to start with this one. Now we have to go down on this one. Let's see. That's going to be, it's hard for me to look at. Okay, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's going to be negative 6. And then over 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me write that off to the side. Negative 6 over 4. That's our slope, but it can be simplified. So let's simplify it. You can divide both of those numbers by 2. So this would simplify to negative 3 over 2. That would be final simplified fraction. So my slope is negative 3 over 2. Okay. Now B, the easy part, just look at where your line intercepts your y-axis here, which is obviously at this point. And so let's see what that is. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7, positive 7 because we went up, so my B equals 7. Okay, equation, y equals mx plus b, so it'd be y equals my m, negative 3 over 2x, plus b, so plus 7. Okay, we got 2 problems left, and if you want, you guys, you can put like an m and a b out to the side if that's helpful for you. You can say, okay, I'm going to record what my m equals first and my b equals, and then write your equation. But eventually, they will ask you in Algebra 1 just to write the equation of the line. And they may not give you space to do your m and your b. You just have to remember to find those things first. So I'm going to write that off to the side. Let's find our m, our slope. Here's my 2 points. I'm going to start with this one. I would go up 2 and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So up 2 over 5. That doesn't reduce at all, so I leave it like that. And then my b, it's crossing the y-axis right here, and that is the point 1, 2, 3. That'd be at negative 3. So b equals negative 3. Okay, so writing my equation, that would be y equals 2/5 x minus 3, just like that. All right, final problem. Okay, I'm going to make a little space for my m equals and my b equals. I'm going to start with my m. Starting here, we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 5, positive 5, and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 5 over 5. Okay, I'm going to write that first. Up 5 over 5. Now think about that. That's just 5 divided by 5, which should just equal 1. So this all simplifies to the number 1. You could say like 1 over 1, but then you'll simplify that to just 1. So our m is 1. Now our b is this point. Let's see what that is. Negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we go down, so it'd be negative 6, okay? Negative 6 is our b. All right, so when we write our equation, we'll do y equals, and we do mx, so that would be 1x, and you just need the x, so you don't need to write the 1. So y equals x plus our b is negative, so minus 6. And that's it, y'all. That is writing equations, the basics of them anyway. Okay, so you should be able to go do your entire practice sheet now, and then we'll do some more writing equations on our next lesson. Good job, y'all. See you next time.